654 Kōtoku, 36th Emperor of Japan 645-54, dies at 57 or 58 b. 596. In 1072 Alp Arslan, Turkish Sultan of the Seljuk Empire 1063-72 in Persia, assassinated at 43. Some sources cite date as December 15. In 1192 Albert of Louvain, Flemish Bishop of Liège and Saint, murdered by German knights at 27. In 1468 Jean de Dunois, the bastard of all Ans, French soldier who fought with Joan of Arc, illegitimate son of the Duke of Orléans, dies at 66. In 1531 Johannes Oecolampadius, German religious reformer b. 1482. In 1555 French Vervoort, Flemish mystic Bruylocht Cleedt, dies at about 65. In 1571 Jan Blahoslav, Czech humanist and Bishop Bohemian Brothers, translated New Testament into Czech, dies at 48. In 1572 John Knox, Scottish preacher, dies at about 67. In 1583 René de Birague, Italian-French Lieutenant General, Chancellor and Cardinal, dies at 77. In 1615 Sethus Calvisius, German composer, dies at 59. In 1650 Manuel Cardoso, Portuguese composer, dies at 83. In 1674 Franciscus van Enden, Flemish Jesuit and freethinker, executed at 72. In 1693 William Sancroft, 79th Archbishop of Canterbury, dies at 76. In 1715 Hedwig Eleonora of Holstein-Gottorp, German-born Queen of Sweden by marriage to Charles X Gustav of Sweden 1654-60, dies at 79. In 1722 Johann Adam Reincken, German organist and composer, dies at 99. In 1741 Queen Ulrika Eleonora of Sweden b. 1688. In 1770 Charles Dean Francois Hénault, French writer and historian, a chronological abridgement of the history of France, dies at 85. In 1775 Lorenzo Ricci, Italian Jesuit leader, 18th last superior general of the Society of Jesus, dies at 72. In 1781 James Caldwell, American revolutionary b. 1734. In 1793 C.L. Mint Charles-François de Lavardie, French statesman b. 1723. In 1801 Franz Moritz Graf von Lacy, Austrian field marshal, served under Empress Maria Theresa, dies at 76. In 1801 Philip Hamilton, American poet and son of Alexander Hamilton and Elizabeth Schuyler, shot in a duel with George Eaker at 19. Mohawk military and political leader who led Mohawk and colonial loyalists during the American Revolutionary War. Brant S. Volunteers, dies at 64. Exact birthday uncertain. Most sources cite March of 1743. In 1822 Carl Jacob Wagner, German composer, dies at 50. In 1827 Herman Werner Munting, Dutch lawyer, Juris Chief of Supreme Court of Dutch East Indies, 1908-19, and colonial director, dies at 54. In 1838 Carl Ludwig Hellwig, German composer, dies at 65. In 1840 Cornelis Rudolf Theodorus Krahenhoff, Dutch hydraulic engineer, began defense line of Amsterdam, cartographer and soldier, dies at 82. In 1842 Per Frigel, Swedish composer, dies at 92. In 1857 Henry Havelock, British soldier, war in Afghanistan 1838-39, dies at 62. In 1863 Claudius Charles Wilson, American Brigadier General, Confederate Army, dies of fever at camp in Ringgold, Georgia at 32. In 1866 Paul Gavani, French caricaturist known for the deceit of women, dies at 62. In 1870 Comte de Lautremont, French writer Les Chants de Maldoror, dies at 24. In 1880 Napoleon Henry Ribert, French composer Le Diable Amoureux, Le Nuit de Noël, and educator conservateur de Paris, dies at 73. In 1890 Auguste Belmont, Prussian-American financier and diplomat U.S., Minister to the Netherlands 1853-57, dies at 76. In 1891 Robert Bulwer-Lytton, 1st Earl of Lytton, English statesman and Viceroy of India 1876-1880, dies at 60. In 1898 Bartel Wilton, Dutch shipbuilder, dies at 70. In 1899 Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Taraishi, Mahdi of Sudan 1883-99, dies. In 1901 Heinrich Urban, German violinist, composer, and teacher of Wunderlandosco and Ignis Jan Paderewski, dies at 64. In 1903 Charles Dupuy Blake, American composer, dies at 56. In 1914 Louis de Riet, Belgian economist and founder of the Flemish People Party, dies at 44. In 1916 Hiram Maxim, American-British inventor Maxim gun, first automatic machine gun, dies at 76. In 1916 John Francis Barnett, British composer, dies at 79. In 1923 Mitchell de Klerk, Dutch architect Amsterdam School, dies at 39. In 1929 Francis E. Warren, American politician, first governor of Wyoming, 1890, U.S. Senator from Wyoming, 1890-93 1895-1929, and U.S. Civil War veteran Union, dies at 85. French Radical Socialist Party politician, Prime Minister of France, 1906-09, 1917-20, who defended French Army officer Alfred Dreyfus, dies at 88. In 1940 James Craig, 1st Viscount Craigavon, Irish Unionist politician, and the first Prime Minister of Northern Ireland 1921-1940, dies of natural causes at 69. In 1940 Seonji Kimochi, Japanese politician, Prime Minister of Japan 1906-1908, 1911-1912, dies at 90. In 1943 Doris Miller, American U.S. Navy cook and Pearl Harbor hero, Navy Cross, killed in action in Battle of the Gilbert Islands at 24-1. In 1943 Martin Raschke, German author and publisher, dies at 38. In 1943 Reiner Prinsen Gulix, Dutch aspiring poet who became an anti-fascist resistance fighter, murdered in Sachsenhausen concentration camp at 22. In 1944 Emmet Schatapel, resistance fighter in Neuengamme, dies. In 1944 Václav Tpn, Czech pianist and composer, dies at 54. In 1946 Alfonso Brockor, Uruguayan composer, dies at 70. In 1946 L.S. Adel Moholy-Nagy, Hungarian painter, photographer, and sculptor, dies of leukemia at 51. In 1948 Real Armand Jurg-Krzalski, composer, dies at 64. In 1953 George Alexander Russell, American organist, composer and the first Frick Professor of Music for Princeton University, dies at 73. In 1953 Robert Lightfoot, English Anglican theologist and exegetist St. John's Gospel, dies at 70. In 1956 Guido Cantelli, Italian conductor, dies in a plane crash at Orly Airport, Paris at 36. Mexican painter N.L. Asnal and husband of Frida Kahlo, dies at 70. In 1958 Robert Cecil, 1st